Hey, welcome to my channel. This is a vlog where I just show you behind the scenes of my micro bakery that I started back in 2019. So today I have a couple of things that are on my agenda to bake. I have marble cake, chocolate and vanilla marble cake with chocolate frosting on one side and white frosting on the other. And that's for my mom's birthday party on tomorrow. I have two cinnamon swirl breads that I'll be baking, and I'm going to continue my testing with the cobblers because, like I said, I have an apple and apple cobbler and a peach cobbler on my list for an order that I need to complete. So those are the things that I'm going to be doing today. So come join me and check it out.
I start off by making my tanzhong, which is a mixture of water and flour together, and then I cook that on the stove top. Here I am mixing together my water and my milk for the cinnamon swirl bread, and then I move on to my dry ingredients for the cinnamon swirl bread: flour, some wheat flour, brown sugar, salt, and yeast. I mix those together, prepare them for a soak. Here's my tanzhong. It's cooking up quite nicely here, and that's about where I want it to be as far as thickness goes. I heated up my water and my milk mixture between 120 to 130 degrees. I added that to my wheat flour mixture with the brown sugar, yeast, and salt. And I soak that for about 20 minutes. While I am soaking that, I am preparing my dry ingredients for my marble cake, which is white whole wheat flour, salt, and some all-purpose flour, and some baking powder. Oh, and I added sugar also. Those are the dry ingredients. And I just put a lid on that and set it aside for when I am ready to use that after the cinnamon swirl bread is done. Here I am adding my yogurt just to a little container to set that aside. Same thing with my eggs. This is how I prep for my cakes. And here I am adding some white flour, a little bit of white flour. This is my cinnamon swirl bread, so I'm adding the tanzhong, the flour, and butter, mixing that all together. And then I add my remaining white bread flour. It's unbleached flour. Here I am mixing it all together. This is my cinnamon swirl bread again, until it is done mixing, and then I add a little bit of olive oil, scrape down the sides, and let it rise for the first rise for about 35 minutes. And then I go back to adding some cinnamon and sugar together, preparing for the swirl effect inside of my bread. I mix that together and just set it aside. And then I mix together my egg wash for the cinnamon swirl bread. I just add a little bit of water to an egg, mix that together and set it aside also. While I'm waiting for the bread to rise, I am going back to my marble cake, melting some chocolate. I make my own buttermilk with some milk and vinegar combined, and then I spray my pans in preparation for the bread.
Hey guys, just a quick update. It's around 6 o'clock and I got a late start today with my bread. I started with my bread and then As you see, I am prepping for the marble cake that I'm going to be baking this evening after my 1-year-old goes to sleep. Um, so I might not be able to get to the apple cobbler that I wanted to test bake today. I'm hoping that I can. This is a kind of a quiet moment that I have while I'm waiting for my cinnamon swirl bread to rise. The first rise is on right now, and then after that I will shape them. So we'll see how long this takes. I also need to heat up dinner for us. We're having leftovers today. I need to get that done while I'm waiting for my bread to rise, or my dough to rise. So we'll see how things go. I still got about 3 or 4 more hours of baking time that I can try to work around my children's schedule, but we will see how it goes.
My dough has done, it's done with the first rise. It's very sticky, like I said. So when you use the tanzhong, it's a different dough than what most people are used to. I know I was not used to this, the stickiness, but I'm kind of used to it now since I've been working with it for a while. But I separate the two. I weigh the dough and then I separate it into 2 different masses, and then I roll it out, sprinkle it with some all-purpose or some white bread flour, just to be able to work with it, and then I roll it out. Well, not really roll it out. I kind of press it out because I don't really like to use a roller all the time. I just use my hands a lot of the times. I'll put the egg wash on there, and then the cinnamon and sugar mixture, roll it up, press the seam together, and then I put it inside of the pan. And I do the same thing with the second mass of dough. I put shower caps on top, as always, as they rise. Here they are about done rising on the second rise, and I noticed that there's a little bit of air in between the surface and the actual the bread. So what I do to remediate that is just poke it, and you see how it went down just a little bit. It's just that top layer, because when you do the cinnamon and sugar swirl in bread, it can separate. So I remediate that by just poking a little bit of a hole on the top and then letting that first layer of air come out. And then they rise and they do not separate when I do that. And they come out beautifully. I put them in the oven and bake them at 350 for about 35 minutes. And they come out golden brown. It was hard to get the second one out, so I just ran a knife around the edges there, and it came right out. Hey, just a quick update. The bread is out the oven, so that is done. I totally underestimated how long that was going to take today. Anyway, that's done. It's about 8 o'clock now, and we're about to go for a walk before the daylight goes away. You saying hi? Yeah. So this is our time together. And then after he goes to sleep, I will start on the marble cake. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Here I am back in the kitchen preparing my pan for the marble cake. I get my dry ingredients and I add my 2 sticks of butter, just in little pieces, and it's room temperature butter. I mix it up until the butter is well incorporated, kind of like just little pieces of butter all up in the flour you see there. And I set that aside. I get my eggs out. I mix together all my wet ingredients, the eggs, and the eggs and the yogurt, and I mix that together there. Clean up my little spill. And then to the eggs and yogurt, I add some avocado oil. That helps with the moisture also. It could be any oil you want. I add that mixture to the wet ingredients. To the dry ingredients with the butter. And I mix that pretty good there until combined. And here's where I begin to separate things for the chocolate and the vanilla cake. So I weigh the batter first, kind of like I did with my cinnamon swirl dough. I weigh the batter, and then I do about a third of the batter for the chocolate cake. I reserve, and then the remaining I set aside for the vanilla cake. I use for the vanilla cake. I start off with my vanilla cake. I add some almond extract to it and mix that in there. And then I go to my chocolate cake. I add some vanilla extract, a little bit of coffee, just because I love to add coffee to my chocolate cakes. It just makes such a big difference. And then I add the melted chocolate. To the melted chocolate, I add my buttermilk first, kind of like a ganache, and then I add that to the cake batter and make a chocolate cake out of that. And then I pull out my sample cups. These are little tiny sample cupcakes that I use for whenever I need to make a sample of a cake. I always make samples just to make sure it turns out right. And I just use a toothpick to do the swirl effect. Here I am making the actual cake, putting it together. I just add little dollops big dollops of the yellow cake first, the yellow cake batter. And then I add dollops of the chocolate cake where I do not have the yellow cake batter. Kind of like in the corners and in the spaces in between the yellow cake. And then I take a knife and I just swirl. Make sure you go all the way to the bottom and swirl up and down and across. And that is how the batter looks after swirling. And this is how it looks after baking. And here I added my frosting, my chocolate and vanilla frosting. So my cinnamon swirl bread is done. It's cooled down to where I am ready to cut it. I probably waited I'd say about 3 or 4 hours before I cut it, because I like for my cake to be my bread to be completely cool before I cut it, because otherwise it will be gummy. Especially this bread, because just the softness of the bread, you have to be sure that it's all cooled down in the middle before you cut it.
Hey guys, it's the end of the day, my baking day. I completed the cinnamon swirl bread and the marble cake. And I did not get a chance to do my test cobbler today. I ran out of time, but that's okay. I have a whole week for testing that. So my samples came out. Everything's done and baked and good to go, ready to go. I have my cinnamon swirl bread here, just half of it, because I already ate a little bit of it when I was cutting it, but I just want to show you guys the texture if it's possible. It's really soft and tender. And just see the cinnamon swirl in there. And that tanzhong, I think that's how you spell it, that just makes it so soft, and it also helps it to last longer. So, so good. It's almost like that Wonder Bread that we used to eat when we were kids, when we were children, except it's homemade and it has whole wheat flour in it, so much healthier, much better for you. It's so delicious though. And then I have my um, oh, this light is off. I had to fix the lighting. It was kind of throwing me off there. I think it still is a little bit, but that's okay. I have my marble cake sample that came out. See how at the bottom it's vanilla and chocolate. Ah, there we go. I will take it out. This is my first time tasting this one. Today, anyway. So I'm just taking it out. Just looking at the marble effect. There we go. Let's make it. I am not used to this camera. And then I will just break it in half. And there's a piece of it. But that's how it looks. And do a taste test. No words. Oh my gosh. It's so moist. Because I mixed the butter in with the dry ingredients, it just made the crumb of the cake very, very tender. It is so good. And the chocolate almost tastes like a brownie. Oh man. That's probably my favorite cake so far. So thanks guys for joining me today. For just watching me as I bake and just looking at the behind the scenes of a micro bakery. Until next time, I'll see you later.